That's me graduating Dictator College. This is me taking over the world with smiles. And this is where I'd put a trophy. If I had one!
A lot of people, myself included, are not satisfied with how Fairly Oddparents ended. Mostly because it ended with this weird girl who takes over the show for some odd reason, and has to share fairies despite being the one thing that Fairly Oddparents can attach themselves to. So let's take a look at 7 other possible places that Fairly Oddparents could have ended, and let me know which one you attach to, including the most popular, the cleanest, the most controversial, and the most unexpected.
Every time there's something cool in my life, every time, Vicky ruins it! And I'm not gonna let her ruin anything else!
If my Channel Chasers review is anything, it's full of fans of the show. Many of them there and on the Hot Takes video think that Channel Chasers could legitimately be the end of the series. The thing with this ending is that Channel Chasers is in season 4. We wouldn't have Schools Out the musical or the other 2 Jimmy Timmy Power Hour movies, as well as everything in season 5. Now yeah, we would have ended on a pretty high note. It would have been a weird finale. Imagine a finale where majority of it is referencing other shows. It's not like Fairly Oddparents' Robot Chicken. It's not built off of referencing other media. It's not a parody, at least not in the beginning.
Selfie! Duck lips!
Also, even though it's a special, it probably isn't a good finale. Yes, the fight with Vicky had weight from Timmy being fed up with her messing with him all the time. And yes, we had Timmy partially lose his fairies because of age. Yes, it deals with the aspect of Timmy maturing. The issue is, I don't believe it is a compelling enough finale to be a final blow on what is a primarily episodic series. Sure, the ending makes them seem like they live in a happily ever after world, but if you remove the ending and the final fight from Channel Chasers, what makes this plausible? What makes this a plausible finale? I don't agree with the choice, but I'll find it barely plausible.
I'm not sure if this is gonna make any sense, but the darkness is back! The darkness is back!
The Witchsology trilogy is another special that had a larger-than-life reception. A lot of people enjoyed it, a lot of people enjoyed when I covered it. It goes through this darkness for some reason, we get more fairy lore, it's funny, I think it holds up today. You'd probably note that a few of my criticisms of Channel Chasers would pop up here. Pretty much that Witchsology doesn't have that finale feel. Well, yes and no. While it was a 3-part series and told a large story-based arc, of course it wasn't tailored towards being considered a finale, but unlike Channel Chasers, it's not a bunch of references. Mind you, I enjoyed Channel Chasers as a TV movie, just not a finale. Here, Witchsology as a finale, it makes more sense because it's going into the Fairly Oddparents universe. You have Timmy's epic battle with the darkness. That includes Turbo Thunder, teaming up with Crocker, these Eliminator guys, and Kiss. Yes, it was a weird time. This would have been the beginning of season 7, but if this was the finale, it would have been the end of season 6 in all fairness. This would have been a little more acceptable of a finale for a few reasons. One, without even tweaking it, it gives Timmy one last Fairly Oddparents heavy adventure, with many characters getting an appearance. Trixie, Mark Chain, Vicky, and Timmy's parents, among others, make a significant appearance. And it gives the show a fuller, more satisfying feel. As a finale, a lot of people want to see things wrapped up. This doesn't mean that everything requires an answer, but Witchsology got closer than most specials. Secondly, it was a 3-part special, which if Gravity Falls taught me anything, you could put a lot of tiny, subtle references to make the fans happy. And again, to reiterate, Witchsology, while having references, is not a movie made of them. Now we get to the cleanest ending. For many people, a lot of their favorite episodes date from season 5 and back. As some of you may not know, Fairly Oddparents had a hiatus between seasons 5 and 6, so this would lead to a lot of people thinking we should have ended it before it came back. And that has some validity to it. We would have not had new characters, the show wouldn't have resorted to flash animation, and the live action stuff wouldn't have existed. By that point, we would have had all the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour movies, we had the Schools Out musical, Channel Chasers, Abracatastrophe, upon many great episodes. So what's the problem here? Well, it's pretty good. I fear something else would have happened that's a little bit more subtle. And to explain this, take Jimmy Neutron.
Slap, 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 clap, 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 slap, 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 clap, 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 slap, slap, slap.
It was premiering new episodes right next to Fairly Oddparents, right under SpongeBob. However, unlike the latter two, Neutron would have ended earlier, which if you think about it, makes it not as well remembered today, like the Fairly Oddparents. Now obviously there's a number of factors here. Nickelodeon doesn't air it as much, if at all, on Nicktoons, and there's very little posts about it on their social media. But I feel as though I wouldn't hold Fairly Oddparents in the highest of light in terms of legacy if it ended in 2006. For me, I feel like yes, while the first first seasons have a lot of my favorite episodes, it wouldn't be until I grew up and learned to look into animation more, and all of this wouldn't have happened in 2006. It would have had to have happened in the 2008-2012 period. So Fairly Oddparents would have been like Jimmy Neutron to me now if it ended around that time. Or to give a better example, Invader Zim. It would have been a show that was good at its time, but ended and a lot of people don't remember as much anymore. Post-hiatus Fairly Oddparents does contribute to its legacy and allow people to remember it a lot more recent, even if a large majority of the recent stuff wasn't good to some people. I support this, but it's too purist for me to prefer it. Fairly Odd Baby appears to be a well-liked special, despite it being the start of bringing in semi-permanent characters. Poof also seems like a well-liked character, even though that was apparently a hot take. So why not have the finale revolve around them getting a baby? I mean, at this point, we're getting to the ledge of where Fairly Oddparents pretty much dipped in quality, so why not stop at the ledge? While this is a very nice, wholesome idea, and could work if tweaked, it runs into a few problems I mentioned before. It doesn't fit as a finale the way it does as a special. So when you have this as a finale, it's going to seem a little weird. Scratch that, it's gonna seem super weird. Now maybe you mean you're gonna alter this, so you're gonna take Fairly Odd Baby and put it at the end of season 6 rather than the beginning. Well, that's super unlucky because season 5 would have had the pre-hiatus ending, which is better than this one in my opinion, and season 7 would have had Witchsology, which is better than this one in my opinion. So you're in between two other better ending ideas. So it would have been easier to extend it or just clip it before the hiatus came back. Plus another point I just came up with, you would have essentially been off air for 2 years to come back and have one more season and end with a baby. It probably would look a lot more weird. And maybe some people won't realize this until you realize that no other show would do something like that. Even if you mean ending it with the last episode of season 6, the last episode in this season is Christmas related. Fairly Oddparents is not having a Christmas finale. One more time. Fairly Oddparents is not having a Christmas finale. But Fairly Odd Baby is definitely possible, but you need to create a lot more material to have the stopping point make a bit more sense. So maybe you say, extend it more, go past Witchsology, and let's stop where Sparky is introduced. That is, interesting to say the least. You'd run into the same problem of having the finale revolve around the introduction of Poof. In fact, it'd be worse, as Sparky isn't that well received, and you would end the show on a character that people don't like, animation that seems pretty weird at this point, and sloppy, and terrible writing. So basically season 10, but not as insulting.
Selfie! Duck lips!
I guess if you were ever to put my hand on the stove and tell me to pick between this and season 10, if this was the only thing I could pick, okay fine, I would go with season 9. I would go with Sparky's ending. But that would be as a mercy kill. This would be a last resort answer. If I can go back in time, definitely not ideal. But again, at this point, considering the quality dip, it would have been far too late. Although Fairly Odd Pet is not a good episode, it is the general quality of season 9 that would do exactly what season 10 did, just to a lesser degree. Now consider this the most controversial, at least in comparison, but how about the live action movies? Now, hear me out. I know we've been burnt by live action adaptations of movies, but I am not the biggest hater of the Fairly Oddparents movies, especially not the first live action one. I think while there were a few issues here and there, that the overall plot and the ending implications allowed for this to be a very creative finale. Sure, it wouldn't have been animated, but the story here allows me to pardon that. As I said in the Fairly Oddparents Hot Takes video, Timmy pretty much is in a struggle to lose his fairies because he is finally growing up. Obviously, he does not end up losing his fairies for good because at the end, by stopping Crocker, he not only keeps his fairies despite Tootie knowing about them, but they share his fairies, which is more acceptable, as the story behind them is both similar. Even though Timmy didn't initially like Tootie, Tootie has to deal with Vicky just as much, as well as school just as much, and for all we know, unsupportive parents just as much. So them having fairies together and helping the world seems a little too wholesome for the show, I admit, but I'd accept this way more than the introduction of Sparky, and way more than the introduction of Poof, and even way more than Channel Chasers.
Wait, I think I'm in your spot. Let's switch.
That's better.
Now the last choice is the most unexpected for a reason. It is not a heavily talked about episode, but it swerves past a lot of potholes that the other choices didn't. Unlike the action movies, this is animated. Unlike Channel Chasers, this is wholesome and directly related to the main purpose of Fairly Oddparents. Unlike Witchsology, Sparky, and Poof, this premieres at the end of a season. Also, it would have premiered before Sparky was shown. And lastly, unlike pre-hiatus, we do get a lot of underrated post-hiatus episodes, as it ends right before season 9 starts. So at this point, the quality hasn't dipped tremendously. Let's talk about Meet the Oddparents. It is the last episode of season 8, a very short season mind you, where Timmy's fairy godparents and actual real-life parents meet.
Hi, I'm Cosmo! And I'm Wanda!
No, not fairy friends and neighbors, where Cosmo and Wanda pretend to be adults. Meet the Oddparents has Cosmo and Wanda in their actual natural form, communicating with Timmy's parents. They do this under the nose of Jorgen, getting away with it at first. They figure they can all be together, if Jorgen never finds out. Unfortunately, because this wasn't the finale, he does find out. But this episode covers so many bases in the meantime. It's a sweet, wholesome, and fulfilling episode that gives us a life where Timmy didn't have to keep a secret and can have both of his parents at the same time. Plus, if you were to rewrite this as a finale, you can go two ways. You can stay undercover as the show ends, all promising to keep a large secret, or you can take the ending from the first live action movie and have Jorgen allow this, so long as they use their magic to help others in need. All of this would have been such a perfect bow and a full circle, as now Timmy is happier and will grow up to help others not be in the position he was all those years. That was my 7 ways. If you have another, or if you want to agree with one of them, let me know in the comments down below. If you want to check out my last 7 ways video, go here, and also consider checking out the last hot takes. It was on Fairly Oddparents, click here. Special thanks to the patrons of April, and until next time, take care. Alpha out.